So growth is something which is important for human being also to live, because if you don't grow, you cease to become a human being.
You see, oh wow, I love that. If you don't grow, you cease to become a human being. Yeah. Whoa, that's a quote there, quotable quotes.
Business Lab.
Hey guys, this is Abu Sofyan. Join us for SMCCI's Day 1 Connect event. It's happening on the 30th of July from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Dhoby Ghaut MRT Dhoby Exchange Station Lifestyle Center. What will you be learning about? Well, we're going to cover on the topic of flexible work arrangement requests. And our GOH, our guest of honor, will be none other than Minister of State, Ms. Gan Xiao Hua, who will be sharing her insights on the issue. What will you be learning? Well, we're going to take a look at how these flexible work arrangement requests can help you boost productivity and also employee satisfaction. So join us for the event, mark your calendars, click on the link below, and I'll see you there.
Hello listeners, welcome to yet another episode of the Business Lab podcast. We're very happy to have another guest here today, and we'd like to thank our sponsors, ID Entity and Craftby3, and of course our media magicians, Studio 5 Corp. Today we have none other than Mr. Mohd Puzi Mohamed. It's very nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Alhamdulillah. So Mr. Mohd Puzi has 25 plus years of experience in diverse professional fields. He holds a magna cum laude BA in economics and political science. He is an innovative leader in education, media, and product development. He creates training solutions that empower professionals to thrive in today's fast-paced digital economy at NTUC Learning Hub. So, Encik Puzi, or Tuan Puzi, you've had an extensive career across various industries. I'm very curious to know, what do you think the viewers can learn when it comes to this concept of lifelong learning? What is lifelong learning to you?
Yeah. Thank you, Sufan, for having me. It's a good pleasure for me to be here with you and also with DPMS. I've been in this space for, since the beginning when I entered the career as a school teacher in MOE. That was way back in 1991, 92. Yeah. So I think education and training has always been my space and my passion. In that sense, so a lot of things has changed in the education space and also training space. So especially during COVID, COVID is like a big economic disruption that happened not only to Singapore but to the world. So I still remember when it first started in Singapore at that time, we were adjusting to switch our classroom from face-to-face learning to virtual live class, So those disruption caused us to think out of the box, and then we had to use new IT digital tools like Zoom, which is actually at that time was a new product. In fact, I still remember at the time I was meddling in some stocks myself, so I saw the price of Zoom going up like skyrocketing because of this change in how people consume knowledge, how people learn. So because of COVID, they are not able to do face-to-face, so they actually have to go through another medium, which I think has a lasting effect in us, which up till now, in terms of NTUC Learning Hub, we are still doing like 60-70% of our classroom teaching via Zoom. So Zoom will stay with us for a long time. So I think the other thing I wanted to sort of share with the audience is that in NTUC Learning Hub, we are a little bit different than so-called learning space in primary, secondary, or even in the polytechnic level. So for adult learning, we have a slightly different way of so-called learning and teaching. So I wanted to explain the two different concepts of pedagogy and andragogy. So remember when we go to school, in fact, when I used to be a school teacher myself. So I remember in class, the teachers are always like the master of knowledge. Whatever they say is verbatim, is the truth. No one can challenge them. But when you come to the adult training space, it's a little bit different because all of them has their own knowledge, their own experience. They could be they could sometimes be even more learned than you. But in their own space of domain knowledge. So in that sense, andragogy actually utilize more of the stored knowledge and how the teacher actually can facilitate learning by actually extracting the knowledge and encouraging active discussion and collaboration among the learners. So the two different aspects of this is that one is the master of knowledge under pedagogy, and under andragogy, the learner that come to class already have some form of knowledge that they can actually share with the class. And the role of the facilitator or the lecturer or the trainer is to actually draw out that knowledge and use that to actually solve real life problem in that sense. The other so-called difference is that for the motivation of learning is different. For example, like for children, when you're in school, right? Maybe you want to please your parent, you want to get good grades because you want to go to good school or get a good job. But for adult learner, the motivation is different. Maybe they learn because they want to improve in their career progression.
Yes.
Or they want to learn something new that they can use it to get better jobs. So the motivation is different. So these are the two differences that you see in terms of adult training and school education training.
Well, that's very interesting, and I like how you made the distinction between the two, because it sometimes gets conflated and people don't see how adult learning is very much vastly different. You mentioned that they are more interested in career progression, in that space. So I'm very curious to know, why do you think there has been a lot of kind of changes in lifelong learning? You did make mention of Zoom.
Yeah.
So what kind of caused such changes? You made mention of COVID, but what else caused such changes, you feel?
Yeah, so the other reason also is because of technological change. So typically, a person who has some IT skills, right? On average now, according to some research and studies, their IT skills can remain relevant maybe for 18 months or 3 years the most. After that, technology change and they have to pick up new technology. So if you're in the IT space, you have to keep on reskilling and upskilling yourself, because your skill set will be obsolete in 1.5 years or maybe 2 years. Okay, so for like marketing and business, it's a bit longer. It's about 3 to 5 years. And for engineering and manufacturing, maybe a bit longer, to maybe about 5 years before things change to a new technology, because manufacturing involves productions of the machines and all those things. But if you're in the IT space, the change in skill set is very fast. So because of that, you are required to always constantly upskill and reskill yourself to remain relevant and to keep yourself employable. So it's not so much about learning as a passion, but learning to keep yourself employable.
Learning to keep yourself employable.
Yeah.
That's vital.
Vital.
Because it's not just lives, but livelihoods.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so I'm very curious to know, for NTUC Learning Hub itself, it embraced digital transformation.
Yes.
Why do you think that's such a heavy investment and a heavy focus on this prioritization?
Yeah. So we see digital transformation as being a number one game changer for the economy. So I give you an example, when I was having lunch just now, right? You used to have previously people coming up to the table with notepad and pen and then take down your orders, right? Now all orders is you scan and then you order from the cloud. So this is digital transformation. It changed the way you do business. The good thing is that you use less manpower. And it's faster, it's more accurate, because you don't have a problem. I wanted teh tarik, but this guy put Milo ice, for example, right? So all this can be eliminated. Yes. And then the orders got into the kitchen faster. And then with AI and data analytics, you can actually see what is the most popular menu, for example, in the restaurant. And then probably it will lead to them deciding what I need to order more in terms of my ingredients. So maybe the weekend is coming, a lot of people like tom yum noodle instead of, for example, steak. So maybe you have to order more noodles, more tom yum paste. So all this digital transformation is changing business. For example, I'm giving an example of a restaurant business, right? The same thing is happening in many other different businesses, even in tourism, even in medical sectors. So it's affecting. So digital transformation is going to be a game changer that workers have to adapt and reskill and learn quickly.
I think the most important thing for anybody who wants to venture and go out and do their own business is to understand that there is no substitute to hard work. Hard work comes first. Everything else comes second. Because we do know that people view business owners as kurang boss. You guys are bosses. You guys drive nice cars and you guys stay in nice places. Yeah, but you don't understand the struggles to get there. I personally tell myself this: do or do not. There's no try. Courtesy of Yoda.
So you mentioned about reskilling. So I wanted to pull along that thread. Why do you think continuous learning and reskilling is so important and vital to be relevant today?
Yeah. So this all goes down to this concept of the growth mindset. So as you are aware, growth mindset is actually not something new, but it's actually a concept introduced in 2006 by Professor Carol Dweck from Stanford University. So the whole idea of growth mindset is that anybody can change, anybody can become better. So of course this is against the opposite end, which is a negative mindset where you think that you don't have a talent in that, or you won't be able to change your behavior or your skill set. So growth mindset and negative mindset are two things that always opposite force. So I just want to relate a bit about the idea of growth mindset. I still remember when my two sons was in JZ.
Okay.
So we were called for like a parent-teacher meeting and all those things. So they were already talking about the importance of growth mindset on on children in school. But because both of them are in the science stream, so it's a very tough subject. So they were trying to encourage the parents to tell the student that you can become better, and you can master this skill set if you have the tenacity, the perseverance to do, for example, the exercises, read on and before the class. So if you believe that you can become better, you have the chance of excelling in your education. But if the student believe that I'm not good in mathematics, for example, or I'm not good in science, then forever they will never be good, right? Because they will not attempt to study those subjects, because already in their mind, I'm not good in math, I'm not good in science, for example. But if you think that you can improve, then you actually take the first step to learn or master that challenges. So likewise, in the real world, now we are teaching, for example, in NTUC Learning Hub, we are teaching, we have courses that teach about agility, and the most basic concept of agility is having a growth mindset. That, for example, if the company say, hey, tomorrow I need to redesign your job. All right, last time you were doing, say, front desk service. Maybe instead of you picking up the phone and talking to the client, I need you to go out and do sales and marketing. Then if you have a negative mindset, I'm not good at that, I can never be a good salesperson or marketing person. But if you have a growth mindset, it's okay, I'm going to go for some courses and upgrade myself and then immerse into the work, and you might excel. That might be a hidden talent that you never know you had in the first place. So these, I think, are the most important concept when it comes to lifelong learning, because if you stop learning, you cease to grow. So I still remember a very famous teacher used to tell me that a human being is measured every day by how much they grow as a person, between what they were yesterday and what they are today. Is how you grow, either in terms of knowledge or in terms of your adab, your mannerism. So growth is something which is important for human being also to live. Because if you don't grow, you cease to become a human being.
You see, wow, I love that. If you don't grow, you cease to become a human being. Yeah. Oh, that's a quote there, quotable quotes. I wanted to segue into the idea, the same idea here, that it's a learning of an individual into the transition into learning in the organization. Because just now we spoke about how individuals should adopt a growth mindset and why that will help them with work. So for one example. But how about in organizations? How do we nurture a culture of learning and growth, this growth mindset that you mentioned, in an organization where perhaps they're embedded into old ways of thinking, they're not willing to change? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so when it comes to organization, the most important thing is that there must be a buy-in from the leadership, from the management, from the CEO or from the president of the company. So it has to be from the top down, in the sense that if the management embrace this culture of lifelong learning, then they can actually grow the organization by having them creating new revenue stream, identifying new business development or opportunities. And all this is important because if the management don't buy in the importance of lifelong learning, it is difficult to diffuse this culture down to the lower end in that sense.
Okay, so they have to get a buy-in.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. Let's say someone wants to make changes in the organization, so to speak, and they want to get management to get a buy-in, right? How can leaders better support the learning of their staff in that particular case then?
Yeah, I think in the case of Singapore it's going to be a bit easier because the good thing is that our government is pro training, is pro growth. So as you know, in terms of Singapore, the biggest asset for us is actually the manpower, the Singaporean and the PR that is living and working, and so they are the main core asset of the country. So for Singapore government, it is important for them to make sure that our workforce can deliver the best value to whichever organization they work, whether in the SME, in the MNCs or in the government agencies. So to ensure that they're able to deliver the best value, the best way is to actually retrain them or train them in a new skill set in alignment with the changes in the economy landscape. So that's why the government has a different organization, Skills Future Singapore, that actually rolls out funding between 70 to 90% to actually encourage Singaporeans to actually retrain and upgrade themselves. So this one I think is something uniquely Singapore in that sense. There's not many other country in the world that have this scheme. In fact, I know some other countries are trying to emulate or follow the same style that we have. But at the same time, this comes with responsibilities because this is also taxpayer money that's actually financing some of this upgrading and upskilling. So there need to be a so-called two-way relationship in terms of responsibility to make sure that you went into the right cause, and after the cause it will benefit you and also the organization. And at the same time, companies can utilize some of this funding to help their workforce to improve in terms of delivering value to the company.
Yes, ultimately it does come to value to the company, right?
Yes.
I suppose that relates back to the buy-in, because if the
Yes.
company can't see that value, then they probably won't proceed with that.
Yes.
So I'm curious to know, could you share with us some of the initiatives that you've done to spearhead, lifelong learning and the different organizations that you're working with?
Yeah. So for NTUC Learning Hub, we actually try to hit different personas in terms of people who goes for lifelong learning or upgrading and reskilling. So there's one persona which is the public mass Singaporean, who, for example, they could be in their mid-40s, maybe they're having a problem remaining employable because their skill set has become obsolete. So they want to go to the more in-demand job role, for example, as a data analyst or as a full-stack developer. So we had them to transit to this more in-demand skill set by giving them a comprehensive training of maybe between 3 to 6 months. And in this training, it includes what we call micro-credentials. So now, in fact, in some MOE studies, more organizations and companies are beginning to realize the importance of industry certifications. For example, if you are a full stack programmer, right? So if you have a Java SE Programmer 2 certification from Oracle, that is a credential which is very much in demand. It shows that you can do coding to a level of industry standard. And it's also an industry certification which is not easy to pass. So if you are able to master and get that certification, it will make it easier for you to get a job in the coding in the IT space, for example. So these micro credentials is something that not replacing the Institute of Higher Learning university degree, but actually is a skill set or certification that can actually jumpstart a person into a new job role or into a new career, for example. So this, I think, can be something that the Singaporean might want to consider as not like a shortcut, but as a stepping stone to enter into a certain industry.
Oh, and I love how that's a very much a specific avatar or client profile. I'm sure there are many client profiles, right?
Yes.
So I love how the needs are very much met for their particular problem. I'm curious to know, let's say, now we're talking about the training space and learning space, right? How does one know that a particular training program is a good, robust program that would help them get the results that they want? What are some of the criteria that you think consumers should look out for?
Yeah. So that's a very important question, because I think as a consumer, of course, you want to enroll into a program that can give you more value for what you're paying for, and then also able to give you the real learning outcomes that you want out of that course. So there are many training providers in Singapore. So the way in Singapore for adult training, right? So SSG has actually rolled out a few so-called programs with what they call CET, Continuing Education Training Provider. So CET status are companies that work very closely with SSG to roll out funded program. And for them to roll out those programs, they must use, for example, trainers who are what they call ACLP certified. So these are certification body that endorse that this trainer has the right skill set to teach adult training. So coming back to the question of how you determine whether the training provider is of a certain standard. So I think in Singapore, the government work very closely with what you call CET, Certified Education Training Center. So continuing education training provider. So basically the CET are those who are able to roll out program that comes with funding from the government. So and one of the criteria is that you must use ACLP certified trainer. So ACLP is actually a qualification by Institute of Adult Learning, IAL, which is part of SUSS. So they actually train trainer to go for like a 3 to 6 month program to teach them to become a better trainer. Yeah. So as I mentioned, adult training, they use pedagogy, right? So it's a different way of teaching adult learners how to draw the knowledge from them and then actually use it to solve real case problem. So in a sense that you have to look for training provider that basically adhere to this so-called principle of using trainer who are ACLP certified to ensure that the class will be conducted in a certain standard. Of course, the other thing, you look into the company track record, their profile, how many people they have trained, you know, in terms of the number of so-called track record they have. For example, like whether they have worked with companies to train their workforce. Like for example, NTUC Learning Hub, we have worked, for example, with some of the banking sectors in Singapore to train some of them to become business analysts, cybersecurity associates. So these are actually fresh graduates that they select after a stringent process of assessment, and then they put through a training period of 3 to 6 months. And after the training, they will go back to the companies to assume the role that they've been trained for. So if companies has that kind of exposure, training people in the different sectors, that shows that they have the depth of training skills to impart those knowledge to the trainees.
But here's, I'm very curious when you mentioned about people pivoting into the companies, right? I think a concern of employers out there would be, hey, they are 40 years, they are in their 40s, they're making a shift, and they took the micro cert.
Yeah.
Now they are going into a new industry, right? As an employer, I think one of the concerns would be like, how sure am I that this person is qualified or skilled enough to bring about outcomes and impact my company? So how would how do we address such an issue?
Okay, so that's a very important question, because you also want to make sure that you train the people in such a way that they have higher so-called opportunity or better employment outcome at the end of the course, right?
Yeah.
So that's also another important so-called factor that training provider has to consider. So in that sense, that's where the product developer becomes a very important skill set. So when you develop, for example, like we do this skills career transition program in Agile IT project manager. So project manager is one of the so-called most important in-demand job in Singapore, and also in Singapore, also the world.
Interesting.
So in order to be a good Agile IT project manager, they have to have different skill set. So one of them, maybe they have to be a PMP certified, project management professional certified. So this is a professional exams by PMI Institute in United States. So they are considered like the gold standard for project manager. And then they have to go for another certification course called Certified Scrum Master. So this is important if you want to practice Scrum and Agile methodology in the organization, especially between the development team, the product team, and also the different stakeholders. So if you have those certification, it endorses the skill set that you have, that you can bring in and deliver value to the company. And then there are other certification like the Power BI certification, where you can use data analytics to actually manage your project better, to see and manage the risk better, for example. So all these different micro-credentialing actually gives a certain indication to the employer, oh, I think this guy has the important skill set that is required to do this job as a project manager. And how do we know that? You actually goes to all those job portal and see what are the different skill set that they list that the trainee need to have, or the potential employee need to have. Then based on those skill set, we design it and include it into the product itself. So that in a sense, whatever we teach is what the industry is looking for. Yeah, so they can use those that they learn, the credential that they earn, as a portfolio when they go for their interviews.
Sounds to me like they work backwards from the employment outcome.
Yes.
Right? So they can get the work itself.
Yeah.
So I guess in conclusion, I think some of the viewers might be keen to know what kind of advice do you have for professionals who are just starting on in their careers in terms of lifelong learning? What would be your advice?
Okay. In terms of advice for someone who, for example, who just started their career, like we have this student who just graduated from one of the local university. She's in her mid-20s, and she was doing one of the engineering degree.
Okay.
And then she find out that there is a strong demand, for example, for data analysts.
Okay.
And she pivoted to that at a very young age. So it tells you that in Singapore nowadays, a person career lifespan can actually need to go through maybe 5 to 7 career change.
5 to 7.
Like I personally, I'm on my 6th career change.
Okay.
So I started off as a teacher, and then I do sales and marketing, and then I do book publication, and then I go into media, TV, broadcast. So a typical so-called a person in industry will have to go to 5 to maybe 7 career change in their lifespan. So lifelong learning is very important to make sure that you remain employable.
Yes.
To make sure that you keep up with the latest skill set that's needed in the new economy, in the new digital economy. So it become like a passport for you to make sure that you are able to remain employable and stay ahead of the curve and beat the rest of those people who have obsolete skills, who didn't upskill and reskill themselves, who remain static. So that's one of the so-called bigger factor in terms of why you should upskill and reskill yourself. Of course, the other reason is because as I mentioned, the world is undergoing a huge change, especially now with the introduction of AI, where maybe some of the job can be done by AI. So some of the jobs that remain become redundant. So they have to create a new job skills. So it's all about AI will actually cause a lot of automation. Some of the job that people in the digital marketing space can do, you don't need, maybe instead last time you hire 4 or 5 marketeers, maybe you only need to hire 1. Because the same person can use AI to create a website, to create brochures, So you don't need that many people. So you have to pivot to a new skill set that can actually help you to become more employable. So it is. So it's important for you to look at the new skill set, the new so-called technology changes that's happening around the world. For example, the changes that AI is bringing to the job landscape, where, for example, before that, maybe in an organization they have like 5 or 6 marketing team, and with AI, they're able to create digital assets or even videos with more ease. Maybe they require less people.
So I think essentially what you're saying is that we have to upskill and reskill that growth mindset you mentioned, and if we don't, then one, you mentioned about competitiveness.
Yes.
I think that should be the theme today. Like if we don't adapt, like the whole, they call it VUCA and all that. I think they'll be left behind. And employability as an outcome, I think is very important. So I'm sure our viewers gleaned a lot of insights from the interview with Mr. Puzi, and I hope that you guys will catch our podcast on the many platforms: TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. We'd like to thank our sponsors, ID Entity and Craftby3, and of course our media magicians, Studio 5 Corp. Thank you so much for your support, and with that, we'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.